Rehab, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a price for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Lazy Booking. No, it's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another week and another edition of Lazy Booking right here on A2DRadio.com, brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants. They're located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA, and you can give them a call 215-369-3300. Tax season has passed, but it will be here before you know it, so be ready and be prepared and call Gibson Mayer.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome to Lazy Booking live from the Real Talk Studios.
Hey.
The Real Talk Studios here on A2DRadio.com. I am your host, Chrome, with my co-host here as well, Maddie, the Ginger Gang, the greatest tag team in wrestling talk history. Better than Tito.
Freebird rule.
Freebird rule. We have our
Buddy Jack Roberts in the house.
We have our frequent guest back on the couch with us, Mike Mataraki, joining us after a bit of an absence. Welcome back, Mikey.
What's up, boys?
Ryan, the bro, Mr. I nicknamed myself Doe. Over in the ones and twos.
Hello.
I know, Ryan, we had this conversation again.
And we probably will again.
And every week.
Probably next week.
But welcome, guys. Our Scanzano Sports poll question this week. We're going to talk Brock Lesnar, and we're going to see who do you think.
Who?
We're going to talk Brock.
Brock Lesnar.
Who do you guys think will finally defeat Brock Lesnar for the WWE Universal Championship? Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins. That's the four choices we came up with, but is there more? Please share. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. We look forward to talking to the fam tonight. Welcome back, Mikey. How you been?
I'm well. Yourselves?
Good. We missed you last week. It was a lot of content to talk about last week.
Believe me, I was none too happy about having to miss last week because I was going to come in hot on you for your thoughts and opinions on the last WWE pay-per-view. However,
I gave some concessions last week.
The name of the station
is Agree
to Disagree
yes.
Radio, and we can agree to disagree, and we'll forge on.
Yes. You're absolutely right. And again, they will vouch I conceded on a few points last week. That made it, maybe it rose it from a 4 to a 5 for me. Maybe.
Well, I'm not saying it was a 10. I would have given it a solid 7.
I don't know about that, buddy.
It was entertaining.
No.
Brian,
stop shaking your
head.
The
in-ring work was not the greatest, but the show on the whole was entertaining, and I will leave it at that.
Yeah. We're not going to rehash old wounds.
Exactly.
But we got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to cover some, I would say, overall, as far as major points in Raw and SmackDown, there were definitely some things that happened this week. We'll talk about that. I think this week in wrestling, or this day in wrestling, is going to be pretty big because there was a pretty historic moment that happened 20 years ago today. Which when
you get guys that are non-wrestling fans sharing the moment with you on social media, it's a pretty damn big moment.
It was a crazy moment, and we had a lot of news items this week that we'll talk about as well. And just for a tease for next week, we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to have our talking points, but one of the main things we're going to do a concept show, so to speak. We're going to do, and we want the fam to participate. Maddie, raise it up. Who is the greatest European champion of all time?
Did you?
Did I what?
Did you? Did we just get liked by a female member of the NXT roster?
Could be.
Hello.
Could be. We'll see.
Brodo's like now on the case right here. He is like full force, ready to go.
Brodo, you want me to screenshot it and send it to you?
Wait, Perry Saturn
You almost
coming
teased
out?
me that could be a trade talk.
No, when you get is she verified? Who is she?
I'll screenshot it.
Cannot confirm nor deny now.
So listen, guys, we got a lot to talk about this week. I think one of the hotbed topics that's come up because of, I guess, where we're at now with the title picture on Raw has clearly been growing frustration with the Brock Lesnar situation. I think we could probably agree that it's abundantly clear that I think he's going to be done after SummerSlam. Would we agree with that? Disagree? What do you guys think, Maddie?
I think so.
Yeah, Maddie?
Yeah, I think it has to happen.
It sounds like it, and it just seems like it's a little bit of a mess in the main event picture, which maybe could be a good thing because you're not 100% on where it's going to go. I think the consensus originally was that Roman was going to win the title from him probably at SummerSlam and he would take a break, although now, from what I'm reading, it sounds like he may be done altogether after SummerSlam, and that could be his final WWE match, at least for the very foreseeable future, which is interesting to think about now. And I think we could probably agree, too, that maybe they kept the title on him. They did not want the name CM Punk on the longest modern title run. Would we agree with that?
Yeah. I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah. So where do you guys think this is going to go? I mean, again, we got Paul Heyman, who's essentially putting up Facebook posts and roasting every main event guy in the WWE, which could be partially kayfabe. It could be kayfabe. It could be partially kayfabe, and because there seemed like a little bit of truth in a lot of that.
Well, we know
Heyman's the best.
All I was going to say, and we know that every great angle is bathed in truth,
sure,
if you will.
Absolutely.
It has its shades of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you guys think the direction is going to go? Obviously, we have the poll question. Who do you think ultimately is going to be the guy to defeat Roman? So I'm going to defer to Maddie here first. Maddie, where are you going with
Well, from the way it's looking,
I'm sorry, defeat Brock. I said Roman.
I mean, for the longest time, you were right.
Freudian slip.
It was looking it was looking very much like it was going to be Roman. However, though, in light of a few recent events, I'm starting to favor possibly Rollins, only because they did not put the Intercontinental title back on him on Monday Night Raw. It's looking like they're going to keep the belt off of him and maybe have it on Ziggler for a short period of time to whomever they want him to hand off the championship to. Maybe Finn Balor, maybe somebody else, who knows. So it's looking like, to me, after he loses to Ziggler through whatever means at the next pay-per-view, that he might get the shot or the nod. I mean, not the next pay-per-view. They already did that. But it looks like he might get the nod to take out Brock Lesnar and become Universal Champion, only because he is, out of all the main event guys, yes, Balor's really over, but Rollins is really, really over right now. I think it would make perfect sense for you to capitalize on it and have him win and beat Brock without having fans walk out of the building and get a huge pop towards the end of SummerSlam.
Interesting.
Well, from my perspective, I can tell you that it will not be Braun Strowman. Mm-hmm. I think the Money in the Bank briefcase is basically Braun Strowman's championship belt. They can build suspense with him having that briefcase for months. I mean, anytime there's a champion in jeopardy, just the thought that he could just show up at any time, and he's such a beast, he's such a monster, that if he shows up, the title's going to change hands. Mm-hmm. They could even have him, have them hit his music and have him just walk out to the ring and just kind of go, turn around and walk out. Kind of just play it off as him choosing his spot. But then that comes to, well, then if Lesnar does have to do the honors at SummerSlam, who's it going to be? I want to think outside of the box on this one a little bit. I don't think it's Roman. I don't think it's Lashley. I don't think it's Seth Rollins. I do think it could be Finn Balor.
Okay.
I think that what you may wind up seeing is the David and Goliath story there, mm-hmm. of all the people in WWE that couldn't get the job done on Brock Lesnar, Finn Balor, the first Universal Champion, the one who never lost his title, was the one who had to go back to SummerSlam where he won it originally and get his title back off of the Beast. Mm-hmm. Now, Do I think it'll be a long title reign? No, I don't. In fact, I think it'll be rather short. I don't think he's gonna lose it the next night, but I don't think it's gonna be a long reign. But I think the thing is, if you put it on Finn for a while, his style is such that any challenger will work with him for a while. You know, he could be in there against your Romans and your Lashleys, and he can also be in there against your Rollins and your Zigglers.
Okay.
If they go when they change the championship and the belt goes to a full-timer instead of a part-timer, do you see them making more championship matches on
for
Raw?
sure.
As
far as the main event, or as far as pay-per-views go.
Yeah, pay-per-views, that's a different story.
I think it'll go back to being a primary focus. Ryan, do you want to chime yours in before I throw mine in?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's going to be Rollins. To avoid just agreeing and then moving on, I'll offer you a scenario in which I wish would happen. It won't happen because it's too soon as far as their whole schedule and how they build superstars. Picture an idea of, say Brock Lesnar's on the way out, okay? But they want to build not a replacement for Brock Lesnar because you cannot replace Brock Lesnar. I can only imagine.
No, did you just channel like your inner Prince? Dig, if you will, a picture.
Yeah.
Now, please continue.
No, yeah. To answer your question, maybe. I can name you a guy, and people have said I may obsess over this superstar every once in a while, which may be true. Maybe. I think who should dethrone Brock Lesnar? It would be shocking. It would make sense. It would be a replacement for Brock Lesnar. It should be Drew McIntyre. Because if it's a scenario where you can have a bunch of different guys vie for the title, I'm not saying, or have the opportunity to be the number one contender, wouldn't a moment be for Drew McIntyre to come out of nowhere? He's clearly over right now with Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, yeah, he's been over big time right now.
He's a monster. You want to talk about instant superstar? Beat Brock Lesnar for the title. Drew McIntyre has arrived. And it's not like he's some nobody. I mean, he had the run years ago. He was the quote-unquote chosen one. I think it should be Drew McIntyre. I honestly think it's Seth Rollins.
May I elaborate with him for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
The reason that I love that beyond all love right now, if you keep the Intercontinental title on Ziggler and you have McIntyre then win the Universal Championship, they then become that quote-unquote dominant force that they said they were going to become. Mm-hmm. And then the way that you eventually split them up down the road is Ziggler becomes jealous of the fact that McIntyre has the more prestigious title. Say he drops the Intercontinental Championship and then wants his shot at McIntyre.
It would have to be as a babyface, though.
I mean, it would be very...
Dolph would have to be, in my opinion anyway.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe the jealousy makes him more of a heel, and it puts McIntyre over as a babyface.
It could. I mean, I don't hate it. It's very reminiscent of the two dudes with attitudes with Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Mm-hmm. Diesel was the champion. Yeah. Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental champion. And I think that they're mirroring a lot of what they did back then with these guys, just both guys being heels as opposed to the face kind of a deal.
Well, if
Why Society Wrestling, or was it Why Society? Yeah, he also said Drew McIntyre actually prior to you saying that, so that's great.
There you go.
You guys are on the same wavelength. I don't mind that at all. I think Drew is definitely on the fast track to move up. They're already teasing a program with Roman, which is huge. If I'm looking at it, and and maybe I'm just being general with it, but I've read that there may or may not be a clause, and I think we did this. I may have brought this up last week. There may or may not be a clause in Brock's contract, this short-term contract, that when he drops the title, he can't lose it clean. Which is why, in my mind, I kind of could see Braun then being the guy. For me, I was pretty set on Roman just because they've done so much to this point now where Roman should be the champion. He's the uncrowned guy and yada, yada. And especially if Brock is finally going to be taken off into the sunset, whether it's for good or for a very long period of time, I feel like they have to wrap that up at some point and finally give your future star the leg up.
If that clause is the case.
And that's where the differentiation comes in.
Right, but if that clause is the case, do you think maybe they were actually trying to take it off of him at the Greatest Royal Rumble?
No.
The whole schmaz with the cage and falling out and who touched first and whatever. Because that was going to be as non-clean as you could possibly get.
Sure.
You think maybe they kind of had a finish in mind there and just called an audible along the way?
Well, this with Brock's run, they call audibles all the time. They could have just said, you know what, inconclusive finish, we're going to hold the title up.
Yep.
So
they could have.
So that's why I don't think that was the case. But it's interesting. You could have it where Roman could pin Brock with some sort of outside help, whether it's a Dean Ambrose returning at SummerSlam, whether it's Braun coming down and teasing, or legitimately just like taking the briefcase to Brock. Brock goes down, Roman pins him, Strowman then cashes in immediately on Roman. Then that starts that whole thing again. There's a lot of different ways they could go about it. I don't think it's going to be Seth. I don't think it's going to be Bobby Lashley, although they are trying really hard to build the backstory with him, even if it's just to tease the different scenarios that could happen.
Right.
So, by the way, Roman and Lashley on Raw was their best segment they've had. They both were really good in that segment.
I agree. And I found it very interesting that for the first time in a long time, Roman Reigns didn't get booed.
Yeah. I don't think either guy really got booed, which was impressive.
That was the most over with a live crowd that I've heard Roman in a long time.
Yeah, they have completely fumbled the fucking. I'm trying to think of the right word.
Jumped the shark.
They have fumbled the Lashley return.
Oh yeah.
But as much as I love Sami Zayn, now kind of having him out there and putting him in a main event scenario is what he has thrived on since what he thrived on in TNA, what he has thrived on and other places around the world that he's worked. And I think that it shows when you get out all the goofy stuff and all this and that, and he just kind of gets in there with a guy who is for lack of a better term, a big dog in the WWE. Mm-hmm. I thought Lashley put on absolutely. He showed glimpses of what we've seen from Lashley over the last probably 5 to 6 years outside of WWE.
I want to go back to your original point on, all right, so, and if this is true, the whole clause in Lesnar's contract that he can't lose clean. And then, say, for example, the guy to then beat him is Roman. I'll give you a scenario to where I think I would definitely like it. It would be something different, and I think it would go over great, especially on their second biggest show, SummerSlam. You have a scenario where in the middle of the match, Dean Ambrose comes back, and mind you, this whole match will be set up as no holds barred because it's kind of the finale of this big rivalry they've had over the last handful of years. It's no holds barred. Dean Ambrose comes out. He helps Roman. It's not going to do anything. Seth Rollins comes out, helps Roman. So it's basically the Shield helps get Roman the title. The story turns from, Brock Lesnar loses the title. That's not the big story coming out of that night. It's, oh, my God, the Shield just took over and they just stole the title. Mm-hmm. And then you could spin it either way because I've heard numerous, different reports that the way they're going about the Lesnar thing, they're trying to make the crowd hate him to where he's a bad guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the whole situation would be, would the crowd then cheer the Shield for interfering? And that would then make them cheer Roman because you get the title back?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, because I was going to elaborate actually on the point that you just made, I was going to bring up.
Can they defend it with the Freebird rule?
There you go. But I don't think it's a coincidence.
New Day would.
Yeah.
You're right.
I know, I'm right.
I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot more of the backstage kind of negativity around Brock is coming out at the time that it is. Mm. And if you're going to get Roman over in a program with Brock, this may be the time to do it, which is why
and they're making Brock look like not the bad guy, but a bad guy.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. I mean, do I think WWE may have their hands in? Hey, just go whisper this over here.
Sure.
I wouldn't put it past them at all. that they're talking about the stalling contract negotiations and this and that. So I find it very interesting, and I do believe that whether you do like a schmaz finish like that, or whether you just do, I like the idea of just having no holds barred, and that's a way that technically Brock wouldn't lose clean. You can have him destroy him with weapons and everything else, as opposed to just a spear and a pin.
And say, for example, this whole storyline with the Shield happens. It's a perfect setup because over the next handful of months leading into WrestleMania season again, which, mind you, the rumored plan, one of them anyway, is to have a Shield triple threat as the main event of WrestleMania.
Would be cool.
So that would be a perfect climax to this whole storyline. The storyline goes from Brock Lesnar all the time to, okay, the Shield, they run Raw.
So let me pose something to all three of you guys, though. Why not both? What about a scenario where you have Rollins come down, he helps Roman in the match, Rollins winds up getting taken out, and Roman can't get a pinfall on Brock. And then all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, the crowd, hit his music or however you want to do it, Ambrose just shows up out of nowhere. Ambrose and Roman go off on Brock. Nothing. No pinfall, no nothing. They just can't beat him down. Mm-hmm. And then they go back to that WrestleMania moment where Brock busts Roman open. Roman gets busted open again and absolutely loses his mind and destroys Brock with chairs, with a garbage can, with anything that he could possibly get his hands on, and finally then gets the win. So you've got all the elements of the Shield, you've got the weapons, you've got everything that could possibly take place there. You still have Brock look strong on his way out, and now you've got your next storyline.
This will never happen, but here's what I would love to say.
I love when you start stories with, this will never happen, but...
Man, I think it would be great, and this is pending that Dean would be healthy for SummerSlam. If they did the no holds barred or no DQ kind of a deal, right? Dean comes out and helps Roman to win the title. And then all of a sudden, they're cheering, whatever, with the Shield. Both guys come out, or all three guys are there, and then Dean turns on them.
Oh.
Because Dean, I think, if Dean comes back, Dean needs to be a heel.
He does need to be a heel.
Same. Dean ends up turning on them, takes the Shield down, boom, walks out. Braun's music hits. Braun cashes in at SummerSlam.
See,
Off the air, call it a day.
And I love the idea. I just don't see Braun cashing in for a while. I really don't. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Braun didn't cash in until the main event of WrestleMania.
Oh,
That's
no.
fair. It's a
Like,
fair point.
No, and I don't mean cash in as in like show up during the main event of WrestleMania. Like literally a month before WrestleMania,
Okay.
go, I want a title match. Boom.
Okay.
And have that be your main event.
Because I think you would.
Especially if you have a heel champion.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about that, and Maddie, we talked about this a few weeks back. We were talking about, they don't really want to try and recreate the whole Seth Rollins cash in at WrestleMania because how many years was ago? That was like 4 years ago, correct?
Yeah.
You don't want to do that every 5 years. Maybe once every 10.
Yeah.
Because every time you do it, it diminishes the first time.
I wouldn't hate it, but I think that I think they'll wait. I could see him maybe doing that at Rumble, maybe.
It's possible.
But if it doesn't happen at SummerSlam, but I'm looking at SummerSlam, I think that they're going to – this is the last one in Brooklyn, and they have really tried to make the relationship with Brooklyn a big deal, and what they've built there as far as making it the legitimate number 2 pay-per-view with all the weekends events and stuff, kind of given the send-off for whatever period of time they're going to be out of the Barclays Center in the summer,
Well,
I think would be huge.
If I could interject, I heard a rumor 2 weeks ago, perhaps, that I have not been able to substantiate. But I heard that in lieu of the fact that Philadelphia did not get WrestleMania last year or next year, so they may be having SummerSlam at Lincoln Financial Field.
I'd be fine with that.
Because that's supposedly like their big move now is they want to take SummerSlam to the stadiums. And with that being the 20-year anniversary of WrestleMania 15. They didn't get WrestleMania, but they may wind up getting SummerSlam.
It's pretty cool.
I would like that.
Because I know they were trying to move Survivor Series to stadiums at this
Well,
point.
but the way that they said it was, as long as there's no conflict with the link, at that point in time, there should be no issue with the Wells Fargo Center for NXT, Raw, or SmackDown. They could do a fan fest at the convention center. The weather is good enough that they could have events at Penn's Landing, outside in Center City. Like it's
Man, it might be hot as balls.
it would be
there.
it would be, but it would actually be more advantageous for them to do something in Philly for SummerSlam than it would WrestleMania.
But in fairness, too, also to elaborate, it might be hot as balls, but listen, I went to San Francisco, or I went to Santa Clara, and I went to Orlando. Good Lord.
Is it any hotter than Orlando?
That shit was hot. The hottest one I went to was the one in Santa Clara.
Really?
That was, I legitimately had to get up. I thought I was going to have a heat stroke because that stadium, the way it's structured, they didn't factor in. And this was told to us by the staff that works there. They didn't factor in the way the sun sets. So when there's games or when there's events, all the time, one half of the stadium, no matter what, that same half is always in the dead of sun. So they were telling us about how many people get taken out of there because of heat-related issues. And I almost felt it. Me and my buddy had to get up. I missed the the Bellas versus Paige and AJ because I couldn't sit there anymore. It was brutal.
You had to go take a walk, get some water.
So in hindsight, I think that absolutely could work, and it would be a good thing. And I've also heard the rumblings, pun intended, that similar. So with WrestleMania, the idea has been floated out that they may pick 5 cities or 5 states and rotate. So it would be like every 5 years, it'd be like kind of like the Super Bowl. New Orleans, somewhere in Florida, somewhere in Texas, New York,
California.
So that, and I actually kind of like that idea because I don't think you're going to find, aside from like a Philadelphia or like a DC maybe, I don't know that you're going to find many more major markets to where you can really market it at the top peak. But also
Chicago, but there's
right.
You can't do something outdoors in Chicago in April.
Correct.
The last time they did anything up there, it was Detroit, and that was at
Right.
WrestleMania.
Well, and that's a dome.
Yeah.
So I've heard the idea of, with the Royal Rumble, having that be another event that circulates to where, okay, Philly's not in the WrestleMania picture. Philadelphia, which is why they came back again, could be part of a rotation for the Rumble. Which I would be totally fine with.
I could see that.
Fine with me.
And it seems
Totally
like, especially
fine
with
with
the
that.
Rumble, there's always, they always talk about the crowd, especially how they've been anti-Roman
It's a hot
for
crowd.
years and years and years.
And anti-Batista and anti-Rey Mysterio, poor guy.
To go back to, all of these different scenarios on how to end, this Brock Lesnar match, we have to be real about something as well. Last handful of years, SummerSlam has the reputation of having really screwy endings.
Say a beyond flat ending.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Well,
not
no, I wouldn't say
always.
that. No, I'm saying the craziest ending to WrestleMania in the last handful of years was the Seth Rollins. Usually WrestleManias are traditional. They look up at the fireworks. It's that. Not so much with SummerSlam. You have the Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar whole situation. You have the Triple H turning on Daniel Bryan situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of different.
Yeah, but SummerSlam's also known for Money in the Bank cash-ins because you had Alberto Del Rio who did it. You had
Randy
Orton.
Yeah.
So whether people love it or not, they try to make it some sort of an eventful thing. You had a couple years ago Jon Stewart, who
showed up and
screwed over Cena for Seth. I mean, they try to do different things and surprises and make it a big event. So
I don't know. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I do think that they try to make SummerSlam their second biggest event of the year. But I know the last couple of years in Brooklyn, the end of them, especially the one where Orton was just basically left laying in a pool of his own blood, completely flat. I mean, at least from my perspective. I mean, people just sitting there going, well, that's it? Show's over? It's time to go? Like, what just happened there?
And I think
maybe it gets sold better at home with the announcers, but in the building, the last 2 years have both ended very flat.
Honestly, though, I don't even think it sold that well on the TV either, because even though the announcers did try to play it up and everything, it just still felt the same way, even from this, like, Really? That's how you're going to end SummerSlam? Like, nothing?
They've definitely had hits and misses with SummerSlam, and I would agree with that. I didn't mind the ending with Orton, but I totally understand why people didn't like it. I think at that time they were building Brock to be a certain stature with the company.
Right.
And unfortunately, they sacrificed the ending of that pay-per-view and Orton to do it. But I thought in the grand scheme of things it was effective. But on that night, it was just a little bit of a like, huh? Kind of a moment.
I mean, just bust him open and then pin him. I mean, give us a finish.
And I think at the end of the I think everyone agrees that I mean they do have hits and misses. My whole point is that they don't keep it traditional to where if you look at this situation with Lesnar, especially if you add the clause in, if that's true, and then you have all of these different guys that can win a title, and then the Dean Ambrose effect and trying to get Roman over and trying to transition into a next big storyline to WrestleMania. There's so many outlets aside from the fact that they get almost experimental with the endings of their pay-per-views, at SummerSlam. It just points to something major happening. I don't know if it's going to work, but something different is going to happen.
Well, I mean, honestly, for me, and it's even taken it out of that, and it's part of the reason, as I said last week, why I softened my stance on the Alexa title or Money in the Bank win.
I find it hard to believe you had any objection to anything that happened with Alexa.
I had a major
But I
issue
digress.
with her winning. I had a major with her, and I love Alexa, but I had a major
That's why
issue
I
with
just
her
said
winning.
that. I know.
No, he was
Major
not
issue
happy.
with her winning.
He was
But
not
in
happy.
hindsight, I looked at it as, again, I see SummerSlam as something they have made a major effort to market as the easily clear-cut second biggest pay-per-view. And the way that the next night went was where I swayed, because you saw the 30-day clause or the 30-day suspension
Right.
of Ronda.
Right.
And now it removes Ronda from the picture, which was fantastic the way they did that, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
And now you have this scenario. You get Nia and the rematch out of the way, and now you have a formidable, very believable. You go through. We're just guests. We just hang.
It's your world. We're just living in it.
But you had a very formidable, true heel, so that I think the main event at SummerSlam might be Ronda and Alexa.
Which is possible.
And I think the way that they're building Ronda, the way the fans have gone a complete 180 now with
Well,
Ronda.
I love what Ronda's doing on social media.
Oh, it's great.
Every day she's just like 26 days,
Yep.
25 days, 24 days. Like,
Absolutely.
She's just feeding into it on social media. And then WWE will take pictures of her still working the house shows. Ronda Rousey in Anaheim fulfilling her contractual obligations. So she's suspended from Raw, but is she really suspended from the company?
Right.
No.
I like it.
And whoever, whether it was Triple H or whatnot, anybody but them, if it was somebody outside of that sphere that pretty much told her, is like, kayfabe it up. Go full force into it. That person deserves to either get a raise or get a promotion. Because that was the smartest thing that they've ever said to anybody.
I totally agree, and I think she's just fine. She's getting the knack of it. A
No,
couple
she
months
is,
in now,
really,
she's
She
learning.
gets it.
Yeah,
Which is great.
But I truly believe that that's going to end up being the main event. They've talked about having the women. They did it once with Charlotte and with Sasha. I feel like this would be another really opportune time to capitalize on Ronda's huge celebrity around the world and the momentum that she has, and to put your best heel female up against her, it absolutely makes sense to me. It's a perfect storm in my opinion.
So I have a question for you. Do you gentlemen see any scenario at all where Brock loses the title at SummerSlam? Ronda wins the title at SummerSlam. And with the women, we get a double turn on Monday night because Ronda is now accompanied to the ring by her advocate, Paul Heyman.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Not in that
Thank you, Mike.
sense, though, the way you booked that. That's nice. I like it. I don't know that she would have to be a heel to have Paul Heyman, though. I don't know that she would have to be a heel for that.
I don't know either, but I just know that he tends to play better on the heel side.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, Only because Paul is such a household name. I don't think that's why you need him. That's why you can get away with her being a babyface. But I think also because she's also kind of getting ahead of the mic skills and she's starting to get a hang of it, they may not pull the trigger on that and say,
true.
you know what?
That's a fair
She
point.
seems to be doing well and she's getting the hang of the mic on her own. So maybe we won't give her Paul. Maybe if somewhere down the line, if it starts to tip off a little bit and we need to turn her heel, then we can revisit that. But for now, let's pull it back.
That's fair.
You know?
I think from what I've read a couple of months ago, if Brock was to step away, I've read that that Heyman would likely step away with him. Now that doesn't mean for him it would be a permanent thing.
Yeah.
But I do believe that could happen, and it's a fair point what you made there because you don't want to start stepping on her toes when the growth is happening,
Right.
you know. But down the line, if you want to do a Ronda heel turn, there is
What
no
better way to turn her?
better way. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's two things with this. Number one, to answer the original question, she does not, in my opinion, she does not need to turn heel for Paul Heyman to go to her because I know it was just a small time compared to their long stint with each other, but Paul Heyman was with CM Punk for a brief period when CM Punk was a babyface.
Yeah,
and it was
absolutely.
very good.
It worked, yeah.
Two, to your point, Grome, I don't see any way they would turn her heel anytime soon because
Right.
she is so over,
She's white hot
so
right now.
respected. I mean, Christ, she's convinced me to actually be fine with her smiling down the ring.
Which
And
is
I never
crazy
thought I'd be
'cause
fine with that.
2 months ago, this was a whole different conversation about
Although
Ronda.
I will say this, though.
Or 3 months
I
ago.
don't disagree with what you said, but I will remind everyone that every timetable that we think about with Ronda in the WWE, you also have to keep in mind that they may wind up trying to accelerate these things.
Sure.
Because she said that she only wants to be there for a certain amount of time, and then she wants to go have a baby. So is that a year and a half? Is that 2 years? Do we get to the point where we actually see the heel turn so that she could then align with her girls that are currently training at the Performance Center to go against the Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, Bayley quartet?
If I'm them, and that's a good point, but if I'm them, I think they'll probably get at least a year and a half to 2 years out of it, right?
And that's fair. That's about what I would think.
So I would think that with those women needing to definitely hone their skills down in the Performance Center, it's going to take some time.
Are we talking about Shayna
Greener-
Baszler?
Yeah, let me
Shayna Baszler, Jessamine Duke.
before we get to the fam on YouTube and Facebook, let me present this, and you let me know what you guys think. And if is this
Well, sir,
And I have one as
this
well.
is a
after
little
you. I have one
fantasy booking, hopefully not
Yeah.
lazy
Sir,
booking,
let me present you with this, if you will.
if you will. So Ronda, let's say Ronda starts as a face. And then Ronda drops the title at some point to someone. And then you start seeing Ronda kind of act a little erratic, attacking people, kind of out of her character. And then they start teasing, Ronda's got to be getting advice from somebody from somewhere to be acting like this. And then do like the slow burn and build to who is that revealed? It's the Advocate, Paul Heyman.
I like it.
Who is now whispering in her ear, this is what you need to do for success. And he could even kind of tease, like, if he's away and off of TV, oh, people are giving Ronda all this hard time. I'm loving what she's doing. She's acting like a champion, like a big main event or like a big ticket performer. And then, boom, you make the hit.
Quick question. Could that mirror what happened when he originally joined CM Punk to where
absolutely.
CM Punk's beating up Cena in the parking lot, limo pulls up, who's in the front seat? Paul Heyman looking down.
Yep, you could do that.
What I would like to see, if we're going to go that route, what would be interesting is if Ronda does lose the belt, but she doesn't lose it clean. And that person that beat her for the belt, they go where they play it out a little bit. She gets her rematch, and again, she gets cheated out of the title through whatever means. It gets to the point where it's just pissing her off because no matter what she does, she can't seem to get the better of this person. This person's outsmarting her. So she's like,
So it'll probably be Alexa.
and she completely snaps, and that's when it's just like, the whole time she's just starting to get angrier and angrier, more frustrated. She's having conversations with Paul this entire time.
The reason that I really like all of this here is if you think about before Ronda debuted and then immediately after she debuted and was doing her media tour, what was everybody's biggest beef with her? Was her erratic behavior. Sometimes she would show up in the best of moods and she'd give you a great interview, and other times she just wanted nothing to do with the interview. She was snide, she was rude, and really wasn't presenting herself in the best light. Maybe life imitates art or vice versa, and you get that erratic Ronda again.
As you stated earlier, a lot of times a little bit of realism sprinkled in ends up being the
Every
best.
great angle
and
is
it can
bathed
be-
in truth.
And it can easily be played up by Paul, who says, like, my client doesn't need to talk to anybody that she doesn't feel like talking to. Why should she have to go below her level to speak to one of you?
Oh,
you
and I
know?
would totally play that up, too.
Yeah.
Like, if she does an ESPN interview or something, have Heyman accompany her. Excuse me, Mr. Golick. I've got this, Rhonda. Mr. Golick, let me set the record straight. And just play with that. You know what I mean? Like, you could really, really play this up really well.
If I may, Mr. Gullish.
I'll give you guys a scenario, and I'll preface this by saying this would be under the scenario in which you get 3 WrestleManias out of her. You're already down once, you get 2 more. And that final WrestleMania match, that would be to end it. That's where that would be your last match. This coming WrestleMania, I think she would face Charlotte.
I would like to see that happen. Yes,
So that's when she would lose the title to Charlotte. At the end, Charlotte goes to shake her hand. She does not accept it. She could either just walk away, she could attack Charlotte, etc. Basically showing, okay, poor sport. And then even the announcer could be like, oh, is she a poor sport or is she just really competitive? That could be a month or 2 where you don't know if she's officially heel, if she's just very competitive, whatever. Because you have to remember, I think she wins at SummerSlam, and then from SummerSlam to WrestleMania, she's the champion.
Yeah, I agree.
She won't lose that much, if
I agree.
ever. So she's not used to it. So she'll have the whole ego of she came right in, she had 3 matches, she won the title, she's on top of the world. Oh wait, I got beat. I'm not the one anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She won't know how to handle it. She turns heel. That leads at SummerSlam to the horsewomen versus the horsewomen.
Or Survivor Series. Yeah, no, I agree with
either
that.
one. Yes, correct.
I agree with that. I like that.
And then
I think that actually plays out way better as a Survivor Series matchup because
True.
it plays right into the whole concept of the event.
Sure.
As a traditional Survivor Series style match, I would love that.
And I'm sure that Bayley and Sasha will still be at odds by that time, too.
yeah, we won't know
every
who's
week.
heel and who's face.
Yeah, they still haven't made their
And
But-
then
and I've gone on the record of saying, I've already said I think Charlotte wins the next Royal Rumble so that she can switch brands and go after Ronda.
Mm-hmm. And then they can go in whatever direction they want as her final match. They can have a mixed tag.
Sure.
They hope maybe there's someone out there that she would face that's not even here yet. We don't know at that point.
Yeah. And I don't even know that she would totally step away as a competitor. I think from a full-time basis she would. And, I mean, it's only 3 years, but she would have that ability. She could step away for a year or 2, raise her kid up to a certain point, and then do a part-time Brock kind of schedule if they really wanted to
I
do
guess
it.
true. I guess my point is that
No,
that
I'm with you, though.
Yeah, no, that 3
As far
year
as that full-time stretch.
Yeah, it would end that chapter in her career, and
Sure.
then she could always come back and do what she
And
wants. Like
guess
the
what?
Chris Jericho scenario, to where every chapter he
Absolutely.
comes, and then he comes back.
And guess what? It would be no different than Brock because Brock's original run was only 2 years, essentially.
Yeah,
So
it's very true.
it works out. Let's hit the fam. Let's get some YouTube, and then we'll hit the Facebook.
All right, then. So let's start off here with the YouTube. and
Appreciate you guys bearing with us there. We had a lot of fantasy booking to get out of our systems there.
That's all right. It's what happens when you're doing lazy booking right here on a2dradio.com.
Maddie, hand that to Ryan real quick.
Oh, yeah, sure. There you go, Ryan. All right, so started off with David Roscoe on the YouTube. What's up, David?
What up, Raska?
Just thought that
Saying
might
that-
be interesting.
Uh,
A neat little pool, if you will.
I'll assess.
Okay.
okay. And Brock Lesnar is the worst Universal Champion. If I was champion, I would be defending Universal title every night on Raw and every week pay-per-view since 2016 as a 695 days longest reigning champion.
Really?
Throw it.
We're going to do this?
Just throw it.
I'm getting out of the way.
All right.
Just throw it.
So,
I got hands. Come on.
You never know.
I'm in a box over here. I'm worried about me.
and
I'm in a 3 foot by 3 foot confined area, sir.
I don't have the flexibility over here for a full throttle.
Nice.
So while you work on that, Brian.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Why Society saying, imagine if Drew and Dolph also won the Raw Tag Team titles as well, and then they'd have all the Raw titles.
They did it with the two dudes with attitudes.
They did do that. He says, forget Brock, Paul, Vince, and Kevin are the real bad guys.
Kevin Dunn.
Oh, Kevin Dunn. Oh, okay. And next up, Hardy.
And Paul is not Paul Heyman. It's Paul Levesque.
Yeah. Hardy.
Somebody's a bit of a smark there.
It's not even calling him Hunter.
Yeah. Or Triple H.
Or one of the three. One of them. And Why Society saying Hardy versus Almas versus Nakamura. Triple threat for the U.S. title at SummerSlam.
I'd like that.
That'd be pretty awesome.
I think that would be...
CN.
You think... Yeah, I would say Almas. would
Especially
probably win that.
under the rumor that Hardy's working with some kind of nerve injury, so they might want to get the title off of him as soon as possible.
It's possible.
And then Why Society also saying EC3 versus Dream in Brooklyn. And he also says Black versus Ciampa in Brooklyn. And then Rob Pove chiming on in, saying, you still conscious there, Big Mikey Smalls?
I
Man's
am.
been working straight since Wednesday.
I sleep here and there. I'm good.
Dedication.
And he also goes on to say, when do you guys think Strowman will cash in? I mean, we teased the possibility of a WrestleMania where it builds up to him facing off with whomever the champ is at WrestleMania, where he just shows up and says, I'll challenge you for the championship. I'll cash in. Or possibly another scenario. Do you think there could be another scenario?
Nah, I think we covered it. I mean, we basically covered from now to WrestleMania. So
The only other way I think they could go about a WrestleMania moment with that is basically have Brock go into the Royal Rumble and just say, I may not win the Royal Rumble, but I still have this.
right.
Then he doesn't win the Rumble, and they come out in February, and he says, well, guess what? I still have this. And maybe he turns it into a triple threat.
What if he's the first Money in the Bank winner to not need to cash in because he wins the title beforehand?
That would be spectacular.
That would be
I would be,
interesting.
because he doesn't need to. And for him, it's, I didn't need it, and now nobody else is going to pull any shit on me with it. I'm just saying.
If he does that, then he's officially their guy. I mean, he's their guy because you can't one-up that.
That would be great.
But I think what would be completely awesome with that is, let's just say for shits and giggles, he somehow manages to lose it and immediately says,
Cashes it right back in.
Right back in,
Yes.
exactly.
I love it.
Like literally loses on a complete fluke and just goes, oh no, you're not done. And cashes in like
I'm
on
not
the
finished
spot.
with you yet.
Here's
Exactly.
a dumb yet simple question. When's the last time he was pinned?
Jeez. I mean, it was.
That's,
I mean, honestly, was it Hell in a Cell?
No, I think it was Lesnar. I don't think it was Hell in the Cell, though.
was the last one to pin him.
SummerSlam?
I think so.
Was that
No,
Unforgiven?
he didn't.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was a SummerSlam.
Not Unforgiven. What's the paper? Is
They
it
had
No
a
Mercy?
one-on-one.
I think it's No Mercy.
It might have been.
And
I
it
think
really
No
and it
Mercy
was
the
very
Raw pay-per-view
underwhelming.
last
wasn't
year.
it?
Mercy, yeah.
Good Lord, that's right.
Yeah, it's been a while. It has been a long time.
with you yet.
And honestly, the pin from Lesnar was sold well enough to the point where it's just like it was just by sheer dumb luck that happened.
Or the new champion's music is playing, and whoever it is walking up the ramp, and he just says, "Hey, get back here!"
Gotta get these hands.
Or so he hands over the briefcase and then drops your line. I'm not finished with you yet.
Exactly. That's
Could you,
it.
could
I
you
mean, that would be
imagine,
like a
though,
top
if the-
5 moment in history. of
That would be
WWE.
great.
Could you imagine, though, if he did this? If he won his brand's title and then won the Royal Rumble and won the other championship at WrestleMania and held both the WWE and Universal Championship at the same time. I don't know if they'd ever do it.
I'll tell you
because of
what,
that,
though.
but
That could be a way to unify the titles if you
Well,
wanted to do
that, but if he is truly going to be the new face of the company, it would not surprise me if when SmackDown starts on Fox in October of 2019, if he's on Raw as the Universal Champion and on SmackDown as the World Champion.
Could be very interesting. I like that idea, Maddie. I like it.
That's gold. That's gold.
That is not lazy booking.
No, that is not lazy booking.
Any of these scenarios actually happen, then I will totally make an about face about Money in the Bank. But if it's just like a simple, I'm cashing in, then I'm
Ryan?
over it. He didn't need it.
A few moments later. Meanwhile, it's like a few years later.
Listen, I always say the best thing they could do is hand me a bowl of shit and make me eat it. I'd be totally fine with it.
that's every Monday.
They make me.
I'm going to give him a big old shit burger.
That is what we like to call backlash.
Yes.
Ooh.
Ooh, and then why?
I love the concern here, by the way.
Chamber.
By Y Society. Our fam is a fam. He's concerned.
Yes.
Where's David Rosca at?
He's over on Facebook.
And Frank Vespi says he jumped over to Facebook. I'm about to read his comments on Facebook. On Facebook, Senor Rosca says, "What's up, boys?" Because he's always the first one to comment on both.
As always.
What's up, David? James Wilder says, "Long live the singlest, greatest, and most memorable moment in WWE history. Hashtag unhappy anniversary. Hashtag Hell in a Cell." We'll talk about that later, but absolutely. Steve Copeland says, "Hey guys, Steve has his own YouTube show, Wrestling Ramble, and Steve was actually very influential in our original podcast and allowing us to kind of go on and grow a little bit." Oh, cool. So. Shout out to Steve. Thank you for popping in because his show is on tonight as well. Frank Vespi says, "Hey, yo, Brock Lesnar's reign as Universal Champion should not distract you from the fact that 20 years ago," I guess it's not a tease anymore,
Yeah.
20 years ago, The Undertaker threw Mankind off the Hell in a Cell. Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit in depth about the legacy of that moment in our.
All these smart marks trying to write the show for us.
That's all right. I like it. You know what? We're all in tune. That's why we're a fam. We're on
We
the
know
same
what it's like to
wavelength.
be the WWE writing team.
Frank says it's gonna be Roman, and James Wilder says
Frank just turned heel.
Oh God. James Wilder says I want it to be Brock, or he says I want it to be Braun. He messed up, and Michael Klinkoff says Brock's a bitch. Maybe it'll be Eugene, Michael. He loves
God.
Eugene.
If Eugene, oh my God, I cry laughing.
Steve Copeland says he thinks it's going to be Reigns. Frank Vespi says, "I'd rather have Tito as Universal Champion than Brock."
Ooh.
Could not disagree any more than that.
At least Tito would be there.
Now Frank's turned heel. David Rosca
man.
says they should bring back the European Champion to the WWE. I don't know if I agree with that, but we're going to bring it back next week on Lazy Booking when we crown who we believe is the greatest European champion of all time. Greg Milokovic says, Braun seems like too easy of a pick, so I'll go the poetic justice of Roman. I instantly hate myself for that pick. Hashtag suns out, guns out. You got it, brother. And Wilder says, I hate you, Greg. Worst pick ever.
Ryan, how close are we?
3.
All right, I will hold my question until after the break because
let's save it for
I
the
know
other
my
side.
question to you guys will set off a complete shitstorm. So
Ooh.
Tom says, yo, what's up? Tom's traveling right now to Georgia. So what up, Tom? Thomas Kennedy McMahon Arnone. popping in.
AKA today the Road Warrior.
The Road Warrior. Road Warrior Arnone. David Ross.
Road Warrior nails.
Roscoe thinks that Lashley's going to be the replacement for
side of
Lesnar. He says, Craig says, are we putting another belt on another member of 3MB? I'm out. Absolutely.
It's not 3B anymore, Greg. I don't even watch in 5 years.
Kelly Cruz Bronson also says, suns out, guns out. Chrome only for you guys in the fam. Sean Spellman says, Brock Lesnar wins at SummerSlam, retains the belt again. Man, that would, if he does retain the belt, that would be a shitstorm as far as I mean, you have to
you know-
believe that he's got some extension signed then.
I don't know. What do you think would make the fans burn Barclays Center to the ground quicker? Would it be Roman going over Brock and winning the title?
No, I
without
think
any
Roman
help
would be
of
a
the Shield?
face. I think
Yeah.
Roman would get cheered.
Or Lesnar retaining it and holding it again.
Lesnar retaining.
So that's what would burn
If
Barclays Center
Lesnar
to the
retains
ground.
again, I mean, that belt's going to be dead by the time he shows up next
Yeah,
time.
I think the fan base as a whole, for a while, they tolerated only seeing him once every 3 months. Now they're just over it.
Yeah. Jose Culture says Braun. Rob Povia chiming in says answer to the poll. Braun Strowman. A lot of Braun Strowmans here. David Rossi says Ronda versus Alexa at Extreme Rules. Alexa at Extreme Rules. Can't happen because Ronda's out, buddy. He says that she'll win the women's title. Can't happen there. Dion Brown chimes in. Dion, my man, Dion.
Dion, what are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, what are you drinking
Some
tonight,
PBR,
Dion?
hopefully?
Let us know. Says, what's up, boys? I'm sick of Brock holding the title. I'd love to Superman punch the shit out of Brock and pin his ass. Roman has paid his dues.
I love you, Dion.
that was a great one.
It was great. Mataraki says hands for Rob Povia says Mataraki equals hands for days.
Absolutely.
Morgan Killian Mosley says whatever it is, it won't happen until Brock is the UFC heavyweight champion. Could be. Dion Brown, I want to make sweet love to Alexa Bliss. Hashtag seriously. Who wouldn't, buddy?
Well, let's go back one, though. I don't think Brock gets into a UFC ring before dropping a WWE title.
No, because he's still got to serve the 6-month suspension.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's either fighting, looks like he's going to fight Cormier.
Well, we'll know
next.
by what? Tomorrow, right? Doesn't he have to make a decision by this weekend or next week or something?
I think it's July 1st.
Yeah, he's got till July 1st
So
to make
Sunday.
his decision to re-enter into the pool.
In the break, I'll figure out when the next Cormier fight is because Lesnar is supposed to be there to stare down whoever wins that. That's the
Oh,
rumor.
the infamous stare down.
Yeah.
Dion says, I don't know why my comments are showing up double, guys. I don't see him double, buddy. He says, I'm fat fingering, but I'm not. I have to figure this out. I apologize, fellas. You're good, buddy.
Just answer the question. What are you drinking tonight?
Cody,
You got some Steve Weisers?
Cody Walsh, who another backstory of Lazy Books and Inception. It was our first ever live comment on YouTube.
Oh, very nice.
So when we started doing a live show, Cody, what's up, buddy? Good to see you again. He says Mick Foley is my all-time favorite. Frank says hashtag heel Frank, and Rosca says Brock is the legendary greatest bitch of all time. A lot of Brock hate. I'll say this. I have been a Brock defender before we go to break. I have been a staunch Brock defender. I am now, over the last month, again, I'm conceding a lot, guys, especially over the last 2 weeks.
It's good to have you.
I'm kind of at the point now where as much as I like what Brock brings, especially this last 6 months, there's nothing there. And he has to contribute something. And that, I do agree, is a major issue. So we have that. And Dion says, keeping it light tonight, guys. Just a 6-pack of High Life on the deck.
Champagne.
Champagne
of beers,
You're-
baby.
You classy over there, boy. I'll tell you what. You bougie as hell.
I would hate the music now.
And we jumped the shark in hour 1.
Fellas, ladies, if you joined us here on Facebook or on Periscope, there is a link at the top of this page. Please join us for the second half of the show on YouTube. Mike's got a nice question for us. We're also going to talk some news points. We're going to talk about that legendary moment in Hell in a Cell from 20 years ago. So please make sure you join us in the second half, and we appreciate your comments for the first half. Maddie, give us a read.
All right, then. So this whole first hour of Lazy Booking was brought to you by Skizano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.skinzanosports.com.
Cody wanted us to know, too, he's from the Houston Texans drinking Shiners here. So he's in Houston. Thanks, buddy. Guys, we'll see you in the second half.
Tom and Mike, AM in the PM, is brought to you by Gibson Mayer, LLC, Certified Public Accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Mike from Tom and Mike AM in the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer, LLC, Certified Public Accountants, 215-369-3300, or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's www.gibsonmayer.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lazy Bookin' right here on A2DRadio.com. Welcome from Facebook if you're joining us here on the YouTube, and welcome back for those who are on the YouTube currently. And we are brought to you by Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. Located at 703 Black Horse Pike, England, or New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-939-2030. Email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net, or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com.
We are back.
And better than ever.
We're back. Better than ever. We got your boy Chrome. We got your boy Maddie. Mikey joining us yet again. Welcome back, Mikey. Ryan Brodo over there on the ones and twos. Doing a fantastic job here. Kicking off the second half.
With the greatest European champion of all time.
Listen, guys, chime in next week. Is this your greatest European champion of all time? We're curious. We're going to really, I mean, it looks legit right now, buddy.
It may be.
You got the Arn Anderson / Shawn Michaels pose you were talking about
well,
there.
With the golf shirt, it's highly Arn Anderson.
It is. That is vintage, as Michael Cole would say, 80s horseman. All you need is the big shades, and you're good.
Yeah, and just to
the
turn
big
to the
aviator
camera
shades.
and do this.
That's
all
it.
you need to do.
That's it. Great stuff. Guys,
I love it.
welcome back. Our Scanzano Sports poll question. Who is finally going to be the person to beat Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship? We have Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins. We've had Drew McIntyre's name floated out there in the first half of the show. Chime in. We're exclusively on YouTube with the fam now. And if you made the jump from Facebook and Periscope, thank you guys for making the jump. We appreciate it. And I know we're going to continue to talk that, but Mike said he had a question for us. And I'm curious where this is going to go.
Where this is going to go is thinking way outside the box.
Which is we do a lot on this show, which is totally welcomed.
With the recent rumors of WWE being, quote-unquote, willing to discuss some intra-promotional opportunities with New Japan Pro Wrestling, with the recent acknowledgement on the WWE Network that their champion, Kenny Omega, was once in their developmental system, with a Kenny Omega match on the network available for viewing, is it possible that at SummerSlam or possibly WrestleMania we get a surprise challenger for whoever the champion may be at the time, and perhaps that surprise challenger is one Kenny Omega or Okada or maybe a Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah.
One of their top 3 or 4 guys in a bit of a talent exchange for Vince maybe giving his blessing and the sign-off on Chris Jericho becoming their IWGP Intercontinental Champion.
Well, what was interesting about that, and we talked about it, was it last week or the week before with Jericho's comments?
I think it was last week because it was right after Dominion happened.
Yeah. So if you missed it, Jericho gave an interview basically stating, I think I sent you the interview.
where he said he will not
still has
appear
that
in the
respect,
States.
right.
Correct.
So, I mean, the dream match for me would be AJ and Omega would be huge. But my concern, unless you're going to have the finish be a schmaz, New Japan is very, very
Protective.
big on protecting their guys. And I don't know that I see Vince necessarily conceding either. It would depend on the platform, unless somehow they did an outside event to where they can broadcast it on the network and New Japan broadcasts it, with their own.
Well, let's say that with that thought in mind, because I don't disagree with you. Let's say that we take Kenny Omega out of the picture because they want to protect their champion.
Sure. Okada would be interesting.
Could you ever see a scenario where Okada shows up to battle Lesnar?
I don't know that Lesnar would be the guy that they would end up doing that with. I truly believe Lesnar's going to be done after SummerSlam.
Maybe you could have a set of matches, if you would, where they are interpromotional matches, but it's kind of like almost like a series where it's like a best of 7 where you make a pick of who's going to be in the match and who's going to face who. WWE say New Japan wants to throw at Tanahashi, and Tanahashi comes in and they're like, all right, we will throw you Rollins to face him. Or the next guy they pick is, okay, we're going to throw you Kenny Omega. It's like, all right, we'll have AJ face him. No championships, but it's like almost like they did this with WCW. It was like they did the World Series of Wrestling.
Sure.
Where they had Japanese junior heavyweight wrestlers facing WCW junior heavyweight wrestlers. It could kind of work like that. You can even have junior heavyweights come on over and wrestle, not necessarily a cruiserweight, but a lighter, like a Finn Balor or what have you, someone who's lighter in weight so that they don't get accidentally trucked or what have you. So
I would
it's
say
a little bit more careful.
I love your concept. I would say the only problem with it is that if it happens on U.S. soil or if it's broadcast on WWE Network, Vince will not lose the event, so to speak.
If they brought over someone like Okada, I'll give you the perfect opponent. I think he would be the go-to guy for an Okada to face as the first one, because I think it would be a great feud. It makes sense. He would absolutely be perfect to go up against The Miz. Okada versus The Miz, I think that would be absolutely fantastic.
I don't hate it.
No, that would be a very...
bad.
And it's not the biggest match, so it's not like Vince is giving up his creative freedom for someone who's outside. You're giving him a mid-card match, which is also high profile because that's The Miz. Miz can carry that because of the mic skills. It could be a perfect outsider. Miz could be like, who the hell are you to be thinking you're coming in here? Okada can lay him out. Miz doesn't lose anything from that. I think that would be perfect.
I don't hate it. The only reason that I can't get on board with it is Okada's the longest reigning IWGP heavyweight champion of all time. The Miz is so far beneath that level on a worldwide scale. I think you'd have to go to at least like a Rollins level.
I think a Rollins. I don't think you want to go...
Again, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I just think that the New Japan people will think that Okada is so far above The Miz that it wouldn't work.
Well, maybe
that's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe they do this too. Maybe they decide to do this with the WWE setting. They have Nakamura face one of his old rivals.
I don't want to see that. We've seen it.
Yeah.
If they're going to do a cross branding or you want to create something you haven't seen before, and I just don't love that idea. That's why I'm not big on Finn. If they select one guy, Finn not being the guy, because Finn's history there.
Oh, I would rather it not be Finn, not be Nakamura,
Yeah.
not be AJ.
What about Roman?
I'd be fine with Roman.
I'd only be down with AJ if it somehow was Omega, which is why I specifically mentioned him.
Right.
But all the other guys, Okada and all,
How about this?
Roman and Okada, yes, absolutely. In a heartbeat.
Well, think about this, too. When you think about Japanese wrestling, you think of heavy striking. Why not Joe?
Joe and Ishii would be fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I would love
And
to
if-
see that match.
And if whether whoever does the job, whether it be the New Japan wrestler or it be Joe, neither one really gets hurt by taking a loss in that situation.
Cena. Any of them.
I mean, that
Doesn't
would-
have to be for a title. That's the star.
in my eyes, that's a dream match to see him go against one of those guys.
Cena and Tetsuya Naito.
Oh God, that would be so good.
That would be unbelievable.
I mean, you put Cena and Omega, crazy. Cena and Okada, crazy. I mean, you can go down the list. And they trust Cena. I mean, New Japan is going to trust Cena.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I
He's
think
not
Cena's got the
beneath
track record,
them.
absolutely.
And you don't need a title. He's
And
one of the few guys where you
doesn't-
put him in there. That's
and
mainstream.
Cena's
It's not
a-
title.
and Cena could
professional.
lose and it doesn't
Yes.
I
hurt
was going
him.
to say Cena might be the one guy that WWE could send in there that could take an L and not
Yep.
Not be hurt by it.
hurt by it. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. I could see it. Yeah, I mean, they could say, "Hey, we'll let one of your guys get a win over John Cena, but we need somebody to get a win for a Finn Balor."
Right.
Or you said, "All right, Miz is maybe in our eyes and in WWE's eyes, Miz is that next great heel guy." You could say, "Okay, we'll do you a favor. Somebody gets a win over Cena. We need someone to get
to elevate Miz.
to Miz
Yeah.
or Rollins or any
Right.
of those guys."
You can do that too, but you can even do something even crazier. What if at the biggest event for each promotion, you have a cross promotion match. Wrestle Kingdom, you have a WWE versus NJPW match. Doesn't have to be the main event, but it could be one of those big, highly produced matches. And on WrestleMania, you have the same thing, an NJPW wrestler versus a WWE wrestler. But you can actually be really fun with this, and unfortunately, I don't think it would go this way because of Vince. You have the Japanese wrestler win at Mania and shock everybody. Have the WWE wrestler win at Wrestle Kingdom and just go, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I-
no one would have saw that coming.
I like it. The only problem is the timeline on it.
Yeah.
Because if the Japanese wrestler wins at Mania, you then have to wait almost 9 months to get to Wrestle Kingdom
Yeah, it would
Oh,
have to be
no,
the
I
other
mean,
way
following
around.
year.
You would have to be the other way around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say more like you do the one at Wrestle Kingdom and then you do the one at Mania.
What you'd have to do is you'd have to have the WWE wrestler go over at Wrestle Kingdom
Yeah.
and then have Japan get it back at WrestleMania.
That was, if it was going to work like that, that would be the way I'd see it because that's not too far of a distance
Yeah.
between the two.
Frank says, "Yo, heel Frank has entered the chat and he wants that European title. How do I win it? Can't stick around any longer. He's going to see the Kyrie Irving movie. God bless you, man. It looks awful."
Uncle Drew.
He just turned heel again by going to see that movie.
Why
He's so
society?
heel he might be a face.
Why society says? He said, and they should experiment at one of the other pay-per-views. Look at Taka versus Great Suzuki at the Canadian Stampede.
Oh, well, they're back in 97.
And Why Society says, "I vote Mike already for the European champion."
Thank you.
Sounds interesting. When we're talking about this concept, he says Strowman versus Suzuki.
Minoru Suzuki.
Minoru Suzuki.
Another heavy
Interesting.
striker.
Cody says Omega versus Braun.
Ooh,
I don't love it.
I couldn't see it happening
don't
at all.
love it.
Because NJ wants to protect Kenny. WWE was no.
No, that's two guys who need the protection. I don't know if I see that happening. But I like the concept of it, and I think it would be huge on both ends.
If you had to pick one guy in WWE right now that you just here's Kenny Omega, pick the guy in WWE right now that would have the absolute best match with him.
Seth Rollins.
Okay.
Yeah, Seth Rollins.
I would have said AJ.
I'd go Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph is not a bad choice either. I mean, Dolph has amazing
I think him and
matches.
Naito would be an interesting feud.
Ziggler and Naito?
The
Yeah.
show off versus the leader of Los Ignorables.
That would be interesting.
Do NXT guys count?
Sure.
possible.
The Dream,
Ricochet.
Ricochet.
Oh God, Ricochet.
But Ricochet has been in NJP before.
He has.
in
Yeah.
JPW. So that's because I mean, he has had phenomenal matches with a lot of those guys.
And what's
But
to say that?
Dream would be interesting.
And what's to say that it has to just be singles? You can have a tag team.
could.
You could have like the Young Bucks show up. I know that does not thrill you by any stretch of the imagination.
Honestly, and I know it doesn't thrill you, I would pay cash money to see the Usos against the Young Bucks. Give them 30 minutes.
That would
Yeah,
be
me too.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
That match. He can't concede it.
I'd have to keep count of how many super kicks and Meltzer drivers we see in that match.
That would be the
about all they got.
It'd be the ultimate super kick party because that's what both teams do.
I know, good
Super
Lord.
kick.
It'd be like who can get the most super kicks in the entire match.
I'm in a good mood tonight, so I'll concede this. If there was an inkling of me being interested in a match with them, that would probably be the tag team I would want to see them.
But for only 15 minutes, not 30.
I don't know if I'd last 5, but
Well, the only reason I say 30 minutes is that if you watch the Usos over the last 2 years,
they're so good now.
when you give them time, their matches are incredible.
They've always been like that, but I think with the change finally and taking them out of like the goofy face paint and all that and giving them like a legitimate badass kind of an edge, I think has not just transcended or been transcending in their promos, but it's showing in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
The way they work is so much better. And they were at high level before. Like, unquestionably to me, as an overall tag team, the Usos are the best tag team the WWE's had in the last 10 to 15 years. Hands down.
I'm good with that.
Well, to jump into a little bit more of this fantasy booking that we got going on, Why Society chimed in. He said Omega versus Woods. He also said Young.
Well, why? Because they square off in video game land twice a year?
It would be funny, but I don't. There's no way NJP would go with that.
Well, here's the thing. The pre-match hype would be spectacular.
Sure it would.
The match would be a complete schmoz because Omega could work circles around him.
Yeah, I think Woods is a good worker. I don't know about circles.
He's a good worker, but he's not on Omega's
but in
level.
terms of
he's not on
elevation-
Omega's level.
Here's the concern that it wouldn't get out of the comedy side of the wrestling because he would feel like it'd be one of those things where they go too video gamey sometimes. Kenny having his history with a little comedic wrestling. Xavier has been known to go on the comedic route too.
Could be.
They
That's what
might
got him
not get out of that realm for it to be too much.
Could be.
I don't know why I just thought of this. The Golden Lovers
The Golden Lovers
against Ziggler and Drew McIntyre.
I'd be interested in that.
I'd be way interested in that.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in that.
What other ones we got here? Oh, Why Society saying Young Bucks versus Usos, like we were saying before. And then Cody Pooltable, who chimed in, he said Omega versus Braun earlier. And he said, I heard Kenny say he wants a David versus Goliath, but no Giants in NJPW.
Interesting.
And then Why Society again chiming in, Reigns and the Usos versus the Elite. And then after that, he then said, he meant the Usos.
See, that's the one thing that I think we all need to keep in mind is I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that Cody Rhodes is a part of this. I don't think he'll ever set foot in a WWE ring
I disagree with
for
that.
for a long time.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. You talk about if he wants a David versus Goliath match, Drew McIntyre to me would be the big man giant who I think could work a style that would be complementary to Kenny Omega. And that would be a huge catapult for him.
And as for the Cody thing, not necessarily him working in a WWE ring. You can have a WWE wrestler that has good history with him come over and wrestle him in Japan.
Well, most guys have good history with him. I mean, he pretty much has gone on the record as saying there weren't many guys in WWE that he disliked working with.
Yeah.
He just disliked working for the company.
So, I mean, it's possible that you can just have one of the WWE guys say, okay, since Cody don't want to work in WWE, we will send a WWE guy to face him out in Japan as part of the inner promotion.
It's possible.
Yeah.
So what was next on your agenda?
Well, let's just touch real quickly on SmackDown Live and Raw. We already kind of talked about Lashley and Roman. And obviously they teased the end of Raw, potential Roman and McIntyre feud, which I love the idea of down the road. But let's talk Bayley Sasha.
Best moment of the night.
It was
best moment of the week.
So we talk about it religiously on this show, how sick of it we are.
Sick of it.
But I have to say, the way that was executed was spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that I can say it was worth the wait, but
True.
It was very, very well done. Bayley cursing and had to get bleeped out, which is interesting. Now,
you know what, though? To me, though, And I will come right back to you, but the thing that I thought was the coolest about that, Sasha got 0 offense in
Oh, yeah.
on that confrontation. Every time she tried to throw a punch, the punch looked weak, and Bayley would just elbow her in the side of the head, and Sasha would go limp again.
Yeah.
I mean, it was complete and utter domination.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, it was great. And to me, the payoff for me would have to be a Bayley face or heel turn. I don't want to see a Bayley face with an edge, with the stars on her shit, with the fucking ponytail to the side. I want to see Bayley come in and say, screw this. This is my show now. I'm taking over. I'm putting Sasha in her place and anybody else that wants to get in my way. I absolutely would love that. I'd like to see a quick program with it, like Extreme Rules, and then call it a day. I don't know we're going to get that. But, I mean, I really enjoyed it. It's the most I've invested in anything that Bayley has done since TakeOver 2, or the original TakeOver in Brooklyn.
Agreed. And to just kind of expand on what you're talking about there, if she comes out and she says, look, here's the deal. I'm better than Sasha. I'm better than Becky. I'm better than Charlotte. And she just goes right down the list. And they don't even have to be on Raw. It could be any woman on the roster. I'm better than this one. I'm better than this one. I'm better than this one. And I'm better than this one. And I always have been. I'm the one who pushed these women to the heights that they gotten to, while I just sat back and admired from afar and watched my friends succeed. But when my successful friends stab me in the back, you've pushed me too far.
Yeah. And she could literally just say, I'm better than this one. Prove me wrong.
Prove me wrong.
That's it. Prove me wrong.
Hopefully it does work out, because the big problem that you run into is, like you said, the length. Because it was a while ago when that happened. And it got to the point where it's just like, okay, when the fuck is this happening? Like,
I mean, we're pushing, what, 8-9 months at this
yeah,
point?
At least,
It's just like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Is it possible for Bayley to sell it? I think she can. I just hope that, if they put all the pieces together properly, because they fumbled the ball, they have a chance to pick it back up and get into the end zone. But time is a factor here. If they screw it up next week and it does not go the way they want to, they do that stupid counseling thing and it don't go the way that it's supposed to go, and they desperately try to clean together some kind of stupid shit where Bayley regrets her decision, it's just like, well, then you have officially bailed and failed this entire story.
Here's where they dropped the ball on this whole thing. There should not have been a backstage segment with her after the beatdown happened. The last image that you should have burned in your mind with Bayley from Monday night was her cursing at Sasha and having it bleeped out and turning around and walking up the ramp, not playing to the crowd, just leaving. And the last thing you see is Bayley turn around and staring at Sasha just like with no remorse whatsoever. She turns around and leaves. The whole thing in the back with Angle and you have to go to counseling or whatever, they needed to let that go until next week.
Or they could have, if they had to have it, if they just absolutely had to do this, then it's simple. Have Angle approach Bayley at some point in the back, not in the office, somewhere in the back, and she's getting ready to leave. And he asks her what she did, and he's demanding that she answer, and she doesn't say a damn thing, and she just walks away. That's the only way. If you had to have it, if you want to play it up, that's the road you go. You don't go the route with the counseling, at least in my opinion.
And I'm
Like
I'm fine with that.
like
But
Kurt's-
after what happened the previous week, with him being involved physically with the Rousey angle, to put the general manager into another angle with a female talent the next week, to me, was lazy booking. It was absolutely not creative and not effective in that spot. The only way it could have been effective is if they would have played it the way Maddie said, where she's on her way out of the building and he tries to get her attention and she just ignores him.
Yeah. No, I agree. And yeah, just like that. Kurt's like, hey, Bayley, what? And then she just gives him a nudge and walks by
Just
and
walk
is done.
right on by.
That would have been fine with me. Team Hell no reunion this week. How did you guys feel about that?
Good little nostalgia moment.
It was cool.
I think it's going to be fun. It'll be short-lived, but it'll be fun.
Short-lived, and I think it's an opportunity. I think Kane, once this whole mayoral thing starts, is probably going to be done.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good potential send-off for him.
Send-off for Kane.
Come in, even if they let him win the title and then drop it at SummerSlam, you know?
Right.
And it gives a formidable team for the Bludgeon Brothers to work with.
Right.
And I appreciate that. We agree on that. And I did love the hugging scene at the end. And for 2 seconds, Daniel Bryan started doing the no shake, but then went in for the hug. I loved it. It was great.
That was good.
It's a perfect, and I don't want to say, I mean, it's more than this, but it's a perfect time killer because I think he's going to be involved in the main event for the WWE title. So it gives something for Daniel Bryan to do.
Sure.
Except for just having him in another meaningless feud. And plus, I really think Kane's going to be in the Hall of Fame this coming year.
I'd say probably this year or next year, yeah.
Absolutely.
So it gives him a match to where it's not like, oh, the last match he had was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because the last time he was around was in the triple threat with Braun and Brock.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think this will be perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
you're with that.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. And what I like about it, too, is, again, it's a good team for the Bludgeon Brothers to work with. And for people, the criticisms I saw was, oh, why do we need Kane? They're screwing up Daniel Bryan's return. It's very clear to me that they're easing Daniel Bryan back in. And for anybody to expect Daniel Bryan to step in and immediately be a champion is ridiculous. And
WrestleMania.
I think that there's going to be a slow burn and a build to that. The Miz feud with him and Miz is worth the slow burn, unlike the Sasha Bailey thing.
3 years ago today, I had my Daniel Bryan moment.
You sure as hell
I
did.
sure did.
Absolutely. Couple quick news points that I had out here.
And the deceased Timmy White. The deceased
Mr. White, that's not wise.
the deceased Timmy White, who's not really dead.
Mr. White, that's not wise. Did you guys hear that at the greatest Royal Rumble ever, Jerry Lawler said that the tickets were actually paid for by the government, or whatever, and it was only $2, and I guess U.S. the cost for them to go to that event.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I thought that was just an interesting thing. Happy retirement to Snitsky, who's officially going to be retiring after a couple more matches.
It's not my fault.
It wasn't my fault. I thought that was a good point. Couple things here, too. Rich Swann has signed with Impact. I guess
You kind of knew that was
officially.
coming.
Well, he's the next X Division champion.
Few things on Eli Drake. He signed a short-term extension, which is funny because there was a lot of talks about him he is a talent that WWE is very interested in, which I love because I think Eli Drake, outside of like a Kenny Omega, is probably one of the best heels in the world that does not work for WWE. Guy's fantastic on the mic. But I thought it was
also your drinking buddy in New Orleans.
He was my drinking buddy in New Orleans, which was a huge mark-out moment for me. But I found it interesting that he talked about his previous short-lived run in NXT, and really what his downfall was Bill DeMott.
Right.
Surprise, surprise. He said DeMott was very moody, was a prick about a lot of things, and really, I think in a lot of terms, held a lot of guys down because of the way he was. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Seems to be a running theme with him.
Yeah, and which is why he's obviously not around. There was the Enzo appearance, obviously, on Stone Cold's podcast. We didn't get to listen to it.
I
but
have
we read
not
some of
had
the
a
cliff
chance
notes.
yet, but it is on my weekend listening playlist, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a little bit backdated, but I think we should definitely check that out and maybe even if we do like a 10-minute video or something on the page.
It's not a bad idea.
Give a quick review on that because I do know that from what I've read in the feedback on it, a lot of good stuff that came.
Yeah, he actually came off in a really good light, which I think surprised a lot of people.
Shocks the hell out of me. I was going to do a word association thing, but we're pressed up for time, so
You can extend. No, I mean we have another 15. We can do another 15 if you want. It's up to the Mr. Sensuti.
We'll do it next week. I'll prepare a little bit better for it. So, this date in wrestling history, guys. So, let's just start with the huge.
Shit, just go with the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Actually, no. Let's save that because I'm just going to brush through a couple of interesting things.
Okay.
So that elephant's pissed.
23 years ago today, WCW ran its first audio pay-per-view. Did you hear about this? I don't even remember this. They had a show called Saturday Nitro from the Great Western Forum in Inglewood, California. It was a pay-per-listen event. It was the first of 6 that they did in 97 and 98. I was a hardcore mark, and I don't remember this
I was
going
to say, I was a big time WCW fan back at that point, and I don't remember this.
Wow.
The main event was Lex Luger and the Giant defeated the Outsiders by DQ in a WCW Tag Team Championship.
I mean, I remember 1-900, 909, 9900, and I don't remember pay-per-listen events.
21 years ago today, on Monday Night Raw, Steve Austin defeated The Undertaker for the WWF Championship. It was Raw is War then.
Ah.
And he defeated, and that was his 3rd title win.
What was it? That was after Taker had beaten him over the edge.
Yeah. So obviously, let's jump into it. 20 years ago today, probably, if not the most iconic, would have to be a top 2 or 3 iconic moments in the history of WWE, possibly all of pro wrestling. The Hell in a Cell match at King of the Ring between Mankind and Undertaker, the infamous throw off the cage through the announce table. Somebody stop the damn match. He broke him in half.
And Foley continues the match.
And then goes through the top of the cage.
Finds his way back up to the top of the cage.
And
is supposed to take a choke slam on top of the cage and goes completely through the cage.
With a chair.
with a
lands
chair.
lands on a chair in the ring, has teeth go through his nostrils.
Aspirates the teeth out of his nostril. Yeah, come out back
One
through
is
his
still
nostril.
hanging in his nostril when they turned the camera on.
The-
to
And
him.
is
infamous
laughing the
scene.
entire time.
And that whole thing, Terry Funk broke kayfabe that night because he literally thought Mick was dead, and it was just wow.
I mean, is it safe to say that that is the defining moment of Mick Foley's career, and not just as the biggest moment, but really kind of solidified who he was as a performer?
It's hard to say because I would say that Foley's career is defined by 3 matches for 3 different reasons. This obviously being the biggest one. The second being the I Quit match with The Rock where he took 11 consecutive chair shots. And the third being the taped Foley wins the WWF Championship. Tony Schiavone says, "Oh, that'll put asses in the seats," and completely makes an ass out of himself.
Go an extra 5 for it. We'll go an extra 5 because I don't want to cut this short.
I mean,
all great. You're absolutely right on all 3. Of
And
those.
it's there's 3 iconic moments for 3 different reasons.
Correct.
Do I think the Hell in the Cell is the biggest? I do, but I don't think that completely defines who he was as a performer.
and I think also too we forget that the versatility that he had on top of it. Being Cactus Jack originally and being called Cactus, not Mick Foley in the back. Him being Mankind in WWE, and then he became Dude Love somewhere down the line. Somehow was the tag team champion with Stone Cold. Figure that one out.
3 Faces of Foley is one of my top 10 favorite gimmicks of
for
all
sure.
time.
Yeah.
And I'm a collector. One of my favorite things that I have is the old WWF figures. That I think they weren't Hasbro's then. It was the Jax ones, I think. But it's the 3 Faces of Foley, and he signed all 3 of them in different shades with all 3 signatures.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's pretty cool.
That's so cool.
I should have.
And then he
I
also
should've bought
did-
that with
he
me
al-
tonight and posted it up.
He also wrestled as Mick Foley at one point too. He did.
Yeah.
He would just be himself.
I mean, you think about the versatility, and like you said, like to get a character of Dude Love, which really there was no intention to do anything with that. He did the interview with Jim Ross. They showed the clips of this character that he created as a young
A
man,
teenager, yeah.
jumping off of the top of a house onto a
Mattress.
shitty mattress.
Right.
And it created an intrigue, and he was able to roll with that. And again, like you said, create one of the greatest overall gimmicks of all time, which was the 3-Face. I used to love the Rumbles where he would come out as one,
Oh, yeah.
come out as the other. It was
It
great.
was great, yeah.
But no, I mean I agree with you on those moments. For me, as iconic as that is, when I also think of that Royal Rumble specifically, it's one of the most brutal things I have and could still watch to this day. And if you go back and you watch Beyond the Mat,
Yeah.
kind of the
It's
inside
tough.
story
Yeah.
of that.
It's tough to watch.
It's tough. It's tough because now that I've seen that, it's hard to even watch the match because you don't realize it when you're watching it the first time. But his kids and his wife are actually sitting, watching him take those chair shots. Once you know that, it's like, ooh, now it's really hard to watch this.
And you think about the issues that people have, and I'm not even talking CTE, like other issues of like injuries and stuff they have. And if you watch the film of him backstage after that, just walking around, just like, well, I guess that was a bad idea, huh? Dad's okay. It's just crazy, and it also shows the toughness of this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he is one of a kind. Absolutely, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but absolutely an icon, and one of, I think, the most underrated names of his, specifically of the Attitude Era and his generation.
No, without question.
I mean, we talked about Vader last week. You know, rest in peace to the late Vader. The moment where his ear gets ripped off by Vader, it's just insane to think of the things that this guy did. I remember
Vader did that. He also broke Cactus's nose live on television. Literally snapped it right to one side with one of his fists.
I remember being a kid, and this was when he was still Cactus, and I knew him from Cactus Jack in WCW, but
Right.
I was a WWF guy primarily, so I watched a little bit of it, but not a ton. And I remember I don't know if it was if it was Pro Wrestling Illustrated or The Wrestler, those magazines you would get.
The Aftermags.
And I remember they would have a certain number of pictures that were in color, and one of the pictures they had in the back was from a death match in Japan, and it was Foley bloodied on thumbtacks in like a box. That was like, but I remember seeing that, and then figuring out that, oh man, this is the guy who's now Mankind, and I'm thinking like, this dude's freaking nuts. And then this moment was like, okay,
It's
like this guy legitimately is insane to allow that to happen.
Well, what was it? The Hell in the Cell match. He actually, going into that matchup, he was sitting down with Terry Funk, and he was actually very nervous going into the matchup because he wasn't sure what to do. Terry told him, why don't you start the match on top of the cell?
Yeah.
And then they laughed, and then Terry said, no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Start the match on top of the cell. And Mick's going on to say, probably the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
And if you think about Foley as a whole, though, when you reference the death match and everything like that, I mean, he's brought elements of that to the WWE as well. I mean, you've seen him multiple times with thumbtacks, with barbed wire baseball bat, Edge spearing him through a flaming table.
Another iconic
moment.
One of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time. And two, it also got out of that. You got possibly the greatest call from Jim Ross ever. You know, we know the Stone Cold call, but to me, his call of Foley coming off that table.
Oh yeah.
Is his iconic moment too, and that is a very storied Hall of Fame career as an announcer.
Yeah, and that's just an amazing. The fact that Foley was able to do that match, whether he was in his right mind or not, and he still continued that match. You would never see a superstar do that today. That just shows you the testament of, well, what wrestling was like back then. Two, Mick just saying, no, I'm going to finish this match. And he got back up, and he walked right back to the ring.
He's legitimately got balls the size of grapefruits.
And Undertaker literally was standing on top of the cell, just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, iconic moment. And then just to round it out, it's a small thing, but you had the whole hardcore title that was essentially
it was a joke originally.
Bought for him, though.
Yeah.
But he was the one that in a lot of ways, that was inspired by him. Matty, raise the belt up, buddy.
Sure.
Don't forget, guys, next week we're going to do a little bit of a concept portion of the show. This is going to be the greatest European champion of all time. I will come up with a bracket. We will work through this with the fam. Mikey, thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate it. Always great having you back on the couch. Matty, whole lot of freckles going on this couch between us, brother.
Hell yeah, man.
The Ginger Gang does it again.
We are coming for those tag team titles.
And our advocate, Ryan Brodo, over there in the ones and twos, did a great job today. Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it. So Matty's going to give us a read.
All right, then. Lazy Booking was brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants. They're located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. And you can give them a call at 215-369-3300. Tax season did pass, but it will be back again. So be ready, be prepared, and call Gibson Mayer.
Guys, Great stuff this week. We'll see you next week. Have a great week and have a great holiday, 4th of July.